Just started. Go ahead.
Awesome.
Excellent. So welcome to the third presentation of the day. My name is Jeffrey Steen, and I'm here with my colleague, Yvonne Bernard. And we have a few topics that we'll be discussing today. First of all, talking about information related to past givers, and then information related to patients or the individuals who are receiving the passes. Also, Yvonne will be talking about the different types of passes. And lastly, we'll discuss blessed water and sort of how that can be integrated into the healing process. So it's really great to be here today. Great to be with sort of new family and friends in Miami, and to see old friends and family in New York as well. Honored to be able to share some information with the group today. So regarding past givers have lots of roles, and I think in lots of ways we can look to Jesus as the master past giver, Jesus as the inspiration. And many of the things that Jesus did, we are also able to do ourselves. And he gave us examples of how to do that, of how to cultivate faith, how to behave in ways that are proper. And most importantly, as the other group mentioned, how to also engage in prayer, and prayer being like an essential component of this process. I like a quote from Mark 5:34. Jesus said to the woman, "You are now well because of your faith. May God give you peace. You are healed, and you will no longer be in pain." And I think for a lot of us, that's probably a prayer that we have as we are both a past giver and a patient. I know for myself, when I was going through this kind of treatment, that was, I think, very much my prayer of wanting to feel better, to know that there is hope, to know that physical, spiritual, mental healing were possible to experience. As I mentioned, the prayer is essential. So as we think about the past givers and the work that they're doing, prayer certainly helps to uplift the environment. It also uplifts the past givers and the patients, and it also helps to cultivate humility in the group. I think one of the essential elements, as I read through lots of materials to prepare for today, is just the importance of being humble and the importance of aligning ourselves with commitment to charity as being like really essential for this kind of work. Andre Luis, in the Service of Passes, had a really great statement. He said, "Prayer is a prodigious outpouring of energies due to the vigorous mental current it attracts. Through prayer, past givers expel from their inner worlds the gloomy remnants from their daily circle of struggle, and they absorb from our plane the renewing substances they replenish themselves with in order to work effectively on behalf of their neighbor. Thus, they offer help and end up being helped in return." I really like that quote. I think in lots of ways, it helped me to visualize what exactly is happening through this process. And so through prayer, both the past giver and the patient are uplifted, and the environment itself is also being blessed as well. Also in the domain of mediumship, it states, serene and self-assured, they absorbed the invigorating forces into the depth of their souls. They knew that prayer kept their spirits in communication with the invisible and profound fountain of luminous energy. And I thought that was a gorgeous image, the invisible and profound fountain of luminous energy. I know for myself, like whether I'm preparing for a spiritist meeting or a different kind of prayer meditation group, it's essential for me to make sure that I'm right with my guardian angel and my higher power, that I've done sort of prayers on my own in order to be able to go into a group and to be able to connect with each other in a prayerful way as well. So essentially what happens as we talked earlier during the past giving process is that we are essentially transfusing these healthy spiritual fluids. So we're essentially like an instrument, and our magnetic energies are stimulated by our will, and we're substituting unhealthy molecules for healthy ones. And these fluids are offered by our spirit benefactors. And as we stated earlier, the past giver is essentially a conduit of the energy. So it's really important to, again, be humble and to be open and receptive to the energies that are going to be exchanged through our bodies. Also, it's really essential to have a commitment to the patient goals. So trying to work with the patient to restore whatever their organic balance might look like, to rekindle a vital flame within themselves, perispirit to perispirit, cleansing negative energies that might be present in the space. I kind of like this quote by Jesus. It says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens. Take my yoke upon you, let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls." And as someone who went through spiritual treatment, I think that very nicely echoes the prayer that I had during a really rough time, was really wanting to be able to find rest for my soul, and to have the burden of the yoke taken away, and to be comforted. Perfect. Awesome. So there are some requirements of pass givers I think are especially interesting to take into account. Now, we've talked about some of these, but the ones we've not talked about, I'll maybe go further into detail about those areas.
It's alive.
Jumping me forward. So it's essential to have a knowledge of Spiritism and a commitment to ongoing study in Spiritism, right? And a lot of us also have other spiritual practices, whether it's Christianity or the Kabbalah. And so it's really important that we're involved in spiritual work, and that we're reading and engaging with Spiritist ideas, and that we actively commit to a Spiritist center as well. That we say that every other Tuesday I'm going to be here, I'm in that time, and this is my priority, this is the work that I commit myself to doing. And just as discarnate spirits are committing themselves to that work as well each week. And it's really important to have a healthy and a balanced lifestyle. As I think an earlier group might have talked a bit about that as well. So thinking about doing what we can to cultivate good mental and physical health, an ability to control like our thoughts and feelings, having self-control. Good sleep is really important beforehand. Also, I think that nourishment is something to think about. So some of the books that I was reading through mentioned that you don't want to have like a heavy meal before the service if you're a pass giver. It's good to have something light, like red meat, for example, has a really kind of heavy energy. So if you're a meat eater, maybe like fish or chicken would be like maybe a little bit less as an imposition. So thinking about just being careful and not eating too much, because maybe that by the time you're to give a pass, you feel stuffed and tired, you've got to go to the bathroom or whatever. So you kind of want to just kind of treat your body gently. Also, it's important, thinking about this idea of healthy and balanced lifestyle, it's important to manage our quarrels at home and work, especially the day of the passes. So to not have like a lot of drama in our lives, right? So not coming to the center with this kind of baggage, but rather try to do all that we can to practice that day to keep calm, to respond and not react. Also, it's important to be healthy, to not have any kind of contagious diseases, and to be feeling kind of upbeat as well. Also, I do mention too that it's important to not use alcohol or marijuana or illicit drugs before giving passes for obvious reasons, because that completely changes our vibration and our ability to connect with higher level spirits. Also, a faith and commitment is really an important part of this process. So as a pass giver, it's essential to have a desire for enlightenment, to have faith and to have trust in the divine, and to understand that this is a process that requires tremendous responsibility and tremendous commitment. So as part of this process, some of the things that I read that might sort of help to cultivate that faith are things like having, again, an active prayer life, trying to have a noble heart and a pure mind, and doing what we can to cultivate love for one's neighbors. And the service of passes, it states, among the incarnates, as well as amongst those of us who are still a long way from spiritual perfection, the success of our work demands experience, punctuality, security, and responsibility from the faithful worker. I like that a lot. Experience, punctuality, security, and responsibility as being like essential for the process. As I mentioned earlier, humility is also incredibly important. So we essentially, as pass givers, are like an electric outlet that we allow sort of the flow of energy from the higher spheres through us to the patient. And some people might even say that we're kind of like batteries that are sort of connected to a power source and then are able to transmit that power. It's essential to understand that really most things derive from the mind, and the mind gives us the power to connect with energies, to change energies. And so it's really important to focus on faith and goodwill. I'm reading the Gospel According to Spiritism right now, and there's a lot of reading about humility, faith, goodwill, charity toward others. And I think that lots of spiritual literature and Spiritism can connect us with those ideas also. Some additional attributes and logistics, which I thought were like really kind of fun to learn. because they're kind of like the nuts and bolts of doing this. So as Angy mentioned, like getting the practice of arriving early. And so if the meeting's going to start at 10, to try to get here at 9:30 or 9:45. Also, it's for those giving passes, often those folks are invited to help prepare the spiritual psychosphere, the spiritual space for where the meeting is being held. It's good to also make sure that we're connected with our benefactors before we enter the space, and that we come prepared to engage and work with them. Tranquility and prayerfulness are also encouraged, as are like emotional balance and avoiding disturbances like rage and slander. Also, pass givers need to be adults. From everything that I've read, pass givers can't be children. And it's also important to have like subdued attire. So like not showing lots of body parts, or not wearing like bracelets that like are really loud, or fragrances that like people can smell kind of strongly. Because essentially those things could interact in the process, or they could kind of affect the efficiency or the benefits of the process. So to sort of arrive and to be quiet, to be sort of not seeking attention, to be kind of like in the background in a prayerful kind of way. I also write too about thinking about clothes. Like sometimes I've heard that, you know, in Spiritism, sometimes in other spiritual traditions, they say maybe you should wear white if you're a pass giver. But from what I've read, that doesn't seem to matter so much. What seemed to matter more was just wearing modest clothing, and any kind of color might be okay. But if we ourselves feel differently connected to our spirituality, if we're wearing white, then maybe that would be something we want to do. But the centers, from what I've read, don't require that for the pass givers. And also it's recommended that passes are primarily at the center, although there are other situations, if you talked earlier, where passes can be given elsewhere also. So I'll read a short excerpt and then turn things over to Yvonne. This book is written by someone I've studied from as well, Gisara Korngold, from the Spiritist group in New York. And her book is called Magnetic and Spiritual Healing. And essentially, she also offers some recommendations. She mentions it's important to have doctrinal knowledge of Spiritism and balanced behavior, good mental and physical health, emotional balance, control over thoughts and feelings, a desire for inner reform, self-control, and faith and trust in divine power. And those recommendations are really...
Just before you go, let me just show them the book. Guys, just for you to see, this is the book that Jeff just mentioned, just in case you're curious. It's actually done by SGNY, Gisara.
Very good. And lastly, the Spiritist Center of Baltimore offers some rules and regulations regarding pass givers. There's probably about 20 or so rules, but I just put a couple of them on the screen, and the web address is down there if you'd like to learn more. But again, I think these key points reiterate what I've just mentioned. The importance of coming early, of being prepared, remembering that we're an instrument of God, that we're not the ones who are doing the healing, we're simply there as transmitters, and avoid getting into emotional imbalance. And again, Spiritist centers are where passes often happen, but they can often, with correct protocol, happen in other places as well. So there's some of the guidelines as I was reading through materials that seem to be especially salient for pass givers. And next, Yvonne is going to be talking about... All right, very good. Information related to patients.
Okay, thanks, Jeffrey. Okay, so in this section, I'll cover patients' good practices, patients that might not benefit from treatments, and what steps can be taken to prolong the benefits of a healing treatment. Okay, so let's get started with patients' good practice. So faith is the most important requirement. And when a pass giver and a patient, that is the receiver of the treatment, are united in thought and heart through faith, healing becomes really intense. So why is faith so important? Now, faith speaks the language of the heart. It is an expression of hope that goes beyond the conscious mind. One of the common characteristics associated with Jesus's healing was that the people that he healed, they all had faith. In fact, the spirit, Andre Lewis, in the book Missionaries of the Light, He says that without faith, the magnetic radiation would not be able to penetrate the organic vessels. So let's do an example. You get dragged to a spiritist center by your mom or a friend, and you are skeptical of the whole process. You're showing that you have no faith. And what happens is that you're blocking the transmission of healing energies, the magnetic radiations. They wouldn't be able to penetrate your body because you lack faith. Okay, number 2, prayer. Sandra and John spoke about prayer already, but I'll just add my perspective, sort of. So prayer shows submission to the divine. And this is what you would do in preparation of the Passe. You would be praying because prayer, it attracts the assistance of the good spirits, and it also has a cleansing effect before you actually receive the Passe. And what prayer is doing is actually helping the transmission and flow of the healing energy. Okay, so let's move on to the third point, willpower. So willpower is your free will in action, and willpower is what helps us change our behavior. I'm sure you've heard cases of terminally ill people that are given a short period of time to live, and through their own willpower and prayer, they survive and they thrive. So your willpower helps relieve and heal any disturbances, and it will also facilitate the curative powers of the magnetic fluids. And the last point is merit. So what do I mean by that? It is a sincere request for assistance from God. As Andre Lewis says, and I'm quoting now, wherever there is merit in those who suffer, the spirits can administer spiritual benefits with relative efficiency. All infirm persons can seek help. All misguided ones can return to equilibrium when they wish. If the practice of the good was restricted solely to good spirits, human redemption would be impossible. So sincerely and earnestly asking for divine help and living a virtuous life facilitate the transmission and flow of the magnetic fluids when receiving a healing Passe. So if you've got these good practices, you are ready for a healing Passe. Okay, let's move to the next slide, please. I know the heading says, who will not benefit? But really, and I think John or Sandra mentioned this, all patients will benefit to some degree, even if it's temporary. The takeaway for this slide is to highlight some of the things that deter the flow of healing energy. And perhaps if a healing treatment didn't work for you, consider some of the points I'm about to mention. So at the top of the list is one that lacks faith. Of course, there are many reasons why someone would lack faith. We are all on our spiritual journey, and through the law of progression, we will continue to evolve at different rates. So there's no judgment here, but lack of faith blocks the magnetic fluids from reaching the necessary places in our bodies. So the second point, maintaining bad behavior, it's sort of self-explanatory. For example, if you received a healing Passe to help with a bad habit, and upon leaving the Spiritist center, you go right back to the same bad behavior, then you're actually nullifying the benefits of that treatment. The next point, enjoying aggressiveness and causing disturbances. I'm expanding on the point above about bad behavior. So the spirit Andre Lewis in Missionaries of the Light, and I quote him a lot because I did a lot of reading from that and on one of his other books. He relates the case of an elderly gentleman that came back to the Spiritist Center for his 10th treatment. Because after each treatment, he would go back to his old ways of quarreling frequently. He couldn't control his rage, and he caused people around him to become enraged. In previous treatments, the spirit benefactors that had tried to guide him in the service of Christian love, but it didn't work. As a result, and by the way, this relates to any patient that receives 10 treatments with no improvement, okay? So the benefactors didn't give him a full treatment because they wanted him to truly experience the effects of his bad temperament and force him to want to improve himself and change his behavior. And then the benefactors would help him again once he had corrected the behavior. Okay, so let's move to the next point. After treatment, the Passe giver will make suggestions to you to help you prolong the benefits of the treatment. And if you recall, we're still on the last slide. If you recall, John told us earlier the story of his orthodontic friend that had psychic surgery, but he didn't follow the instructions from John of God and about working on his anger. And as a result, you know, he didn't end up, I think he died. I think that's what John said. Mm-hmm. So each person must go through his or her own process of recuperation, but you have to follow the guidelines given at the end of the healing path. Otherwise, the treatment will be short-lived. Okay, number 5. In the case of patients, this is the last point on this slide. In the case of patients that are obsessed or have incurred spiritual debts, either from the past or present life, a single treatment will not be enough because the disturbance or illness might be so deep-rooted that it will take additional or other types of treatments to resolve the issue. And the last thing I want to mention is that passes are not intended as a substitute for necessary medical treatment. Okay, we're going to go to the next slide, please. Okay, so what are some of the ways we can continue to enjoy the benefits of a healing treatment? First, we can establish a life in gratitude through prayers. You know, prayers tend to be reactive for many of us, meaning that when we pray, it's because we're asking for something. So in gratitude, we make our prayers more proactive by saying prayers to invite blessings we have yet to experience, or prayers to prevent problems from arising. And there's much to be grateful for. This beautiful planet, or health, food and shelter, family, friends. There are many things to be granted, that we take for granted, that we should be grateful for. Another thing that helps is by doing charitable acts as a way of paying it forward. Angy is a great example of this, doing her charitable acts, but it doesn't have to be on such a grand scale. It is as simple as doing something thoughtful for someone in need, doing it from the heart. And finally, participating in study groups or doing other spiritual practices is really helpful in understanding the philosophy, morality, and science of Spiritism. And in doing so, it will help to anchor and deepen the healing benefits. I mean, I can say that it satisfies my intellectual brain in the science part of it, and it has also brought my moral values. It has brought into focus, my moral values in a pretty significant ways. Okay, we can go to the next slide, please. So we're going to be talking about different passes. Some of this might seem familiar because Sandra and John spoke about passes. And first slide is type of passes. So this is just an overview of what I'm going to discuss in the subsequent slides. It's about passes from a slightly different perspective than what we've heard by others. So there are 3 types of passes: magnetic, spiritual, and combined passes. And there are 2 energy sources: the incarnate or Passe giver and the discarnate or the spirit benefactor. And there are 2 types of fluids used in the healing path: the personal magnetic fluids or vital fluid, of the past giver and the universal fluid of the spirit benefactor. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's dive in. So a magnetic pass is transmitted by a pass giver to the patient or the receiver of the pass. Second point, so healing begins when the pass giver transmits his or her own personal magnetic fluids or healing energy, usually through the hands to the patient's forehead. Third point, in a magnetic pass, it is the forehead or frontal center, and we heard Patricia talk about the frontal center or the third eye, that triggers the production of the vital fluid. And the frontal center is where the pituitary gland is located. The pituitary gland, don't say it fast, is associated with speech, learning, knowledge, but also psychic powers. And in the diagram on the side of this, the slide shows where the frontal center is located. It's between the brows, known as the third eye, in the energy healing profession. So the reason why the magnetic pass works is because the pass giver is using his or her willpower to produce the vital fluids needed for the treatment. Now, we didn't really say a lot about vital fluid before, and you might say, what the heck is she talking about? So the vital fluid is a modification of the universal fluid, and you know what the universal fluid is. All beings have the vital fluid, from plants to humankind, and it generates impulses via the nervous system. It can be transmitted from one individual to another. And what happens, those with greater quantities will transmit to those with less quantity. So that's what I want to say about that. So, however, the magnetic pass is subordinate to the spiritual pass because the crown chakra at the top of your head, this is the seat of the spiritual connection. So the crown chakra is not involved in a magnetic pass. But let me interject here that the story that Sandra told us this morning about the lady that she healed that had cancer in the hospital, and how when after they had applied their pass that she was healed. The spirits must have helped with that healing because they had the sincere desire and the faith, and they attracted the spirits to come in as well to help with that treatment. So I'll say a little bit more about spiritual pass so you'll better understand. So let's move to the second class. Thanks. So spiritual passes are applied directly by the spirit benefactor to the receiver or the patient, and it does not involve a pass giver in the treatment. This is because the spirit benefactors are always seeking to help human beings when we sincerely ask for help and are living a virtuous life. And when I say humankind, I'm not just talking about other spiritists. I'm talking to anyone from any religion. All they have to have is that faith and that they can be helped, and they ask for help. If you haven't read Missionaries of the Light or In the Realm of Mediumship, both of them are dictated by the Spirit Andre Lewis. You should. In these books, we see that spirit benefactors, they too need special qualifications to administer passes. And what Andre Lewis tells us too is that they can see all the internal organs and systems of the incarnate body, as well as the peri-spiritual body. They know also the patient's past human existences and know what spiritual learning is required in this incarnate life. So they can administer passes based on many different levels of analysis, so to speak. The physical, the peri-spiritual, and spiritual. It's quite remarkable. Okay, let's move to the next slide, please. So the combined pass. So The combined pass is a joint effort of the spirit benefactor and the pass giver. If you look at the picture, you'll see how the personal magnetic the personal magnetic and the spiritual fluids are transmitted to the patient. The transparent shapes in the foreground are the spirit benefactors. They are transmitting their universal fluids through their hands to the two pass givers that are standing in front of them. And in turn, those pass givers are transmitting a combination of the universal and the personal magnetic fluids of the pass giver to the two patients that are seated. So the combined pass is the most common practice in Spiritism, and it has broader healing benefits than a magnetic pass. As mentioned earlier, the combined pass aims to assist in the physical, the perispiritual, and the spiritual problems. So during the treatment, the pass giver is suffused with these fluidic resources from the spirit benefactor. So they don't need a separate treatment because they're getting it from that benefactor. And the prayer actually ensures the continuous flow of this radiant source of energy to the pass giver. It also enhances the patient's treatment too, if the patient is in a prayerful state. Next slide, please. Okay. I thought I would throw in a little of the science behind the passes. You know, Kardec loves science. There are a lot of behind-the-scenes planning and preparation that goes into the healing treatment. And we get a glimpse of this from the Spirit Andre Lewis in his books. So first, the spirit benefactor attunes with the pass giver by connecting their perispirit, that's the benefactor's perispirit, to the pass giver's perispirit. And Sandra and John spoke a little about this earlier. Then the spirit benefactor transmits the energy, his universal fluid, through his hands to the top of the pass giver's head. Remember, that's where the crown chakra is located. So Patricia mentioned this earlier. So the crown chakra is associated with the pineal gland. The pineal gland is the biggest receiver and distributor of spiritual energies. The crown chakra, or the crown center, is also the most important center because it distributes these energetic fluids to all the other chakras or centers of force, as Spiritism, that's a term Spiritism uses. Instead of talking about the chakras, they talk about the centers of force, but they're the same seven. The universal fluids from the benefactor mixes with the vital fluids from the pass giver's own magnetic reserves in the perispirit of the pass giver. In turn, the pass giver transmits the combined fluids that flow from his hands or her hands to the patient's head. And then, the healing is dispensed. Oh, you should also know that each patient receives the healing that is most beneficial for them because our beautiful spirit benefactor manipulates the universal fluid to meet the needs of each patient. So you are actually getting a personalized treatment. And by the way, the energy radiates from the pass giver's hand to the patient without any need of having a physical connection with the patient. Okay, so we're going to move to the next and last slide. Administration of passes. That one, please. That one. One more. Yes, there. I inserted this slide just as a reference to cover different ways in which the passes can be applied. So the first one, the longitudinal pass, I understand that at the Spiritist Center, this is the most common pass that's applied. And it's from the top of the head to the to the soles of the feet. It's a sweeping motion with the hand in front of the receiver. And the last one on the list, the perpendicular pass, it's similar, but the pass giver is standing at the side of the patient and uses both hands, one in front, one at the back, does the same sweeping motion from head to toe. And I understand that sometimes the pass giver, every spiritist center is different, and I'm sure Angy will maybe say something on this. Some pass givers will start with one sweep to remove any kind of negative energy and then continue with the pass. Then the rotational pass has to do with rotating the hands. And then the transverse pass, which is not used on a regular basis, and I don't really know a lot about it. So there you have it. That's my presentation, and I'm going to pass it back to Jeffrey, and he's going to finish up with the water, healing benefits of water.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Yvonne.
Welcome.
All right, so this last portion of our presentation is going to focus briefly on a topic that I think is especially interesting, water. So it says, let's see, so 70% of our body is water, and for thousands of years, people had used water for all kinds of like spiritual and medical purposes. I know for myself, like when I'm in the shower, when I was a kid, I used to sing. I would like think I was going to be the next, Broadway star. But as an adult, I'm in the shower, I pray. And I find that when I leave the shower that I have just been like just bathed in like good energy. I feel so restored, confident, refreshed, connected to my higher power. So we know that we can have all different kinds of rituals that can connect us to water. And this has been the case for thousands of years. So like, for example, people travel around the world just to visit sacred water spots, and water is seen like as a healing energy force that transmits them the spiritual energies. And I have an example of that. I went to Niagara Falls recently, and there were tons of people there, and mostly Indians actually, which is interesting. But for Indians, especially, Niagara Falls is a very sacred place. So it was neat to like see people like just completely mesmerized, to use that term, as they experience the waters of Niagara Falls. And in various traditions also, water has been used. And I wanted to share a short video of a Hindu woman who gives an example of water and kind of what it means to her. It's about a 2-minute clip.
Namaskar. Chantal. This is the word which best describes the nature of water. Flexible and adaptable. Water always molds itself, be it the ice or in the glass or in the ocean. The transformation power of water influences our spirits and energy.
They said they couldn't hear it or see it. Did you guys say that you couldn't see it?
We cannot see. We can only see the slide.
Oh, okay. So one second.
Yeah, we could hear it well, but we could not see it.
Okay. So just 1 second. Let me go back.
Perfect.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we are going to start again.
Namaskar. Chantal. This is the word which best describes the nature of water. Flexible and adaptable. Water always molds itself, be it the ice or in the glass or in the ocean. The transformation power of water.
Angy, can you mute yourself? I muted the presentation. I'm sorry, because it was having echo here.
Wait, you're having. Okay, so let me mute ourselves here.
And unmute the presentation, yes.
Good. So let me. Get out of here. Mute ourselves.
Technology.
Did you hear the presentation?
At first, yes. If you stop sharing and share again, I think it's going to enable it.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
Chanchal.
Thank you.
This is the word which best describes the nature of water. Flexible and adaptable. Water always molds itself, be it the ice or in the glass or in the ocean. The transformation power of water influences our spirits and energy. The world is made up of water, and so is our life. Water can respond to our thoughts and emotions. 72% of our body is water. So, speaking to water actually changes its course of functioning with our body. We must understand how our thoughts can influence the water inside us and vice versa. If we choose goodness over evil, the water inside our body will adapt the course we chose. Water will mold itself and us to choose what is good. But after all this is said and done, we also need to understand where we are using or misusing water. Here are some practices that we can include in our daily lifestyle for mindful use of water and its healing power. First, kickstart your day on a right note. Have a glass of water when you wake up. Thinking happy thoughts in the morning, setting good intentions for the day forward, and directing this energy with a glass of water is the healthy practice one must adapt. This will boost our spirit. This will balance our fluid content and equally allow cleansing of our body. Second, water for internal and external cleansing. We use water for cleaning, cooking, and bathing. Similarly, water for internal cleansing is the way to purify our souls and spirit. One should sit, chant affirming thoughts to the water, and then drink it. This will be beneficial to reroute the force of water inside us and align with our desired direction. You can use water as a medium for cleaning our nasal passage as well as our gut. Practices like Jalaneti for the nasal cleansings and Vaman Dhoti for the gut cleaning. Third point, swimming and aquatic workouts. Swimming is not only a good alternative to exercise, but also serves as a way to reconnect with your inner voice. Staying in water amplifies our senses and put the lamplight on reconnecting our inner energy. It also boosts our positive energy and enhances our mood. Every touch of water brings us closer to our set goals. Proper hydration and mindful thinking can redirect your lifestyle towards healthy living. It will not only boost your mental and physical growth, but also promote productivity in your performance. Remember, water is just a clay, but you are the one who is molding it. Namaskar.
We can see the presentation again, Angy. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, we can hear you now as well. Thank you.
Great. Perfect. So I really like that video. I think she spoke very eloquently about all the different ways that we're surrounded by water and that water can be used to help improve our life, help improve our health. There's also, I won't show the video clip by Masaru Emoto, A lot of you have probably heard of his work. He's a scientist from Japan, and essentially he sort of studied the construction of water crystals. And so he placed, like, in each jar some water and then a word in front of that jar, and a word like love or gratitude or despair or hatred. And he would invite people then to stand in front of each of the glasses of water and ask them to send whatever that energy was to that water. And essentially then they look at the kind of the way that the crystals were constructed, and it's shocking. Like the really positive words like love and generosity and kindness, like the molecules are gorgeous. The things like necessity or rage or some of the more negative experiences, the crystals are all like spiky and all kinds of strange shapes. So there's actually many books that have been published. He has since passed away, but he and his colleagues studied like hundreds and hundreds of water molecules. And so you can actually purchase books with these pictures in them. And they're really quite stunning. So just another example of how water has been used by different traditions to help us grow and help us understand life. Regarding Spiritism specifically, we believe that water is magnetized with like psi molecules, that our spirit benefactors are preparing the water as medicine, so as beneficial fluids for us. And it's really important for us as we receive water to pray for the blessings that are there, to be receptive to those energies, and to essentially take what is our medicine. The Spirit Manual in the book, The Consoler, says it can only be magnetized with a specific character for a specific patient, in which case it should be expended for the personal and exclusive use of the patient. So as we think about getting Passe, we very often sort of walk and get a cup of water afterward. And so in Spiritism, we believe that this cup of water actually has been blessed, right? And that we're receiving from our spirit benefactors exactly the kind of medicine that we need in that moment. And that's why we don't want to like share water with other people or take somebody else's water bottle, because it's essentially, it's our medicine. And so typically then water is it's provided after the Passe giving process, and it in lots of ways complements the process and the revitalization that our body is experiencing. And to quote again, Jasara Korngold in her book, Magnetic and Spiritual Healing, she says, thus in Spiritism, it is common practice to offer a small quantity of water to the patient after receiving the Passe as a complement to this process and as a means of revitalizing the physical body. This is not ordinary water because it has been saturated with beneficial fluids originated in the spiritual world under the guidance of spiritual benefactors responsible for the work of passes. This is why it is called magnetized water. This special water enables the patient to retain energies and increases the absorption potentialities of restoring fluids received during the Passe. This will allow the patient to continue to receive spiritual benefits between the Passe sessions. It is also very helpful for the digestive organs to receive a direct influx of spiritual fluids. And something that I was taught at Spiritist centers was after I kind of get my water and drink a bit of it, I then, when I go home, I fill the water bottle and then just keep using that same bottle with those fluids in it throughout the course of the week, so that kind of treatment can continue. So I just constantly kind of replenishing the initial water that was received with new water to get nourishment throughout the week. So I think that was really all that I had to say about water and its power for ongoing healing. And lastly, I think a favorite prayer of mine is a prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. And I think that in lots of ways, this prayer to be made an instrument of peace, to sow love, to exhibit faith and hope and light, I think are the hopes of the Passe givers and the Passe receivers. And so I wanted to kind of end our presentation with sharing what I think is a really beautiful prayer that kind of guide us in the work that we're doing. So
Just read it to it.
Yeah, sure.
For us.
It says, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not seek to be consoled so much, seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. That's all that we pray for today. And thank you, Yvonne.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you so much. Very, very beautiful. So, yeah, we're all like, woohoo! Let me just take a quick picture of Yvonne, and now we are open for questions and answers. So let me know if anyone is online and would like to ask a question. Let me stop the presentation, bring back to here so we can.
Angy, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi. This is a Gilson from ES here. It's not showing my face, but that's okay. One of the things when I was watching the lecture regarding how the patients are receptive or not to receive treatment, we know that these is just guidelines for us to understand the process. But as workers in a center, our concern is what can you do to empower someone's faith when they arrive here? What can I do to help them to feel they have trust in us and in the environment? What can you do that they can feel inclusive, that they can feel welcome? Because if you do our job as workers in the center when a newcomer arrives, and you do all the guidelines that most of these centers have, a prayer in the beginning, to do uplifting reading and discuss throughout the meeting, and then do the Passe in the end, the person is going to be extremely receptive. I think you can do so much as workers. Like every time someone comes to the center, welcome them. Like make them feel that is their home. Make them feel that is a trustful environment, that they can say anything and feel that they're not going to be judged. Because these are the things that make us receptive to receive help. And the rest is between the person and God. We're not here to try to understand if they're receiving or not the treatment. But for the newcomers or anyone who comes to the center, always remember, this is their home. Do they feel as such? And what can I do as a co-worker to make this environment receptive for healing for them and for us? And when you use the word charity, we always need to bring back to the gospel according to Spiritism. Benevolence to all, indulgence to people's flaws, forgiving for all offense. So when I'm giving the pass, am I being forgiving? Am I being benevolent? Am I being indulgent towards the person and the environment? If you start to observe these things within us, both is going to be great instruments of healing. Always remember, to be a good pass giver, we need to accept first the healing in ourselves. Then maybe it goes through the other person. But that's it. Thank you, guys.
Very good, Adilson. This should be, but I am here. This should be always our behavior. So as we start becoming a practitioner, a volunteer in any spiritist center, in any religious place, the first thing we have to do is to be very welcoming, and we have to pay attention to the new ones that come. And another thing that's important, because lots of us speak different languages, and we have a tendency of seeing a Brazilian and we jump to Portuguese, and here in Miami sometimes we even jump to Spanish, and we have to be careful with this, because English is the language that's uniting all of us. We always speak English. That's another thing we should be very careful, because sometimes we forget. So everything is in English. As soon as the lecture or the study or whatever finish, we jump into a different language, and then it's not a welcoming environment to someone that does not speak that language. So it's another thing that we should always think. And it's really, really good. We are all very friendly people. So whenever we see someone different, let's just go there and say, hi, nice to meet you. My name is this. Is your first time? So it's you all know that you have been there much longer than our buddies here in via InnerLight. So I'm sure at this point you are all professionals are welcoming others. So
Angie, can you hear me? Can I make another comment? So just to extend to what you and Adilson said, Adilson focused a lot in the newcomers at the center, but we need to remember that we are all in need of help all the time, maybe some days more than others.
yeah,
So we need to look to everyone all the time with the same eyes, right? Maybe I'm not in a good day. Maybe Daniel today is not being nice to everyone, is not smiling. But it's the day that I need the most patience, right? And we need to be like this with everyone every day, especially the ones that are going to give passes. Because if you don't connect to this type of energy later on during the pass giving part of the meeting, we're not going to have good energies to donate or to be able to channel through, right?
yes, very good. You're right. And
Why they are fixing there, just a reminder, when I have a Q&A now, once we finish the Q&A, it's going to be us, we're doing the facts, okay? Not getting started, on our connection Spiritist. Because you're not able to see the other ones in the see? Sorry. It's the rain on like for the cold.
Angie is on mute.
okay, guys, what happened here is the computer restarted by itself. It's like crazy. We don't even know how it happened, but it started by itself. So we actually have what time it is now? Let me see. 2:17. So the time is scheduled was actually 2:20. So who knows? They made us to end it 3 minutes earlier. But
Angie,
yeah,
I want to say something. This is for not only past givers, but for in our lives. Okay, there was a time that came. Sometimes come some words for me, and was many times serve, and I was, what's that? And I said serve, and then one answer was like this: when you work with your hands, but when you serve with your heart.
yes.
So past giver, this is the one of the clue. See if you are working or serving.
Very good.
Yes.
Who was it, Jenny?
Yeah.
Very good, Jenny. I recognize your voice because I still can't see you. I'm trying to reconnect it through my computer here. But you are totally right. We are using our physical bodies, but we actually are working with our heart. As we saw before about charity, about the desire of having a good instrument, and as some of the speakers mentioned that we are just an instrument. We don't have the power of curing anyone. So this is very, very nice. So let me see if there is any other questions here. I'm trying to reconnect here. Guys, any questions? Let me hold can you hold this? And Jeff will answer the questions.
All right. No hard ones, please.
So first John and then Patricia?
Yeah.
So John, go
In your
ahead.
presentation, Jeffrey, you had PSI water. What is that?
Yeah, so psi molecules aren't they
Yeah, can you repeat, please? We could not hear the question.
sure, the question was, what are psi molecules? The PSI molecules?
PSI water.
And my understanding, Angie, psi molecules are like they're like from spirit benefactors.
Oh, so
Like they're
when you
purified.
bless the water, it becomes
Like
silent.
molecules become psi molecules.
And the other thing is that when you take your blessed water home, don't let the bottle empty and then refill it. And say a prayer when you refill it.
Absolutely. So thinking of the power of intention and prayer, and making sure that as we're filling the bottle, we still have some of the original liquid still left in there. We can kind of like titrate it throughout the week. Patricia.
I have a question for Yvonne about the passes. The part of the magnetic passes. The magnetic passes. So it's a donation from the past giver, actually. So I would like to understand a little more of the benefactor role in that kind of pass.
In the magnetic path, the benefactor is not part of it. It's your own magnetic fluids, your own vital fluids that you're using. The spirit benefactor is not in that in a magnetic path, as per Spiritism.
We are back. So, thank you so much.
So it's what I understood. I just want to make it clear, but probably has, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe has a part of the benefactor on the manipulation when goes to the receiver, since it needs to have a uniqueness of treatment for that person, as you mentioned, yeah? So it's not just those two incarnated beings. Probably has something more around, even though it's not directly.
So
I didn't even understand the question because of.
So
What is hold on, Yvonne. I'm just trying to understand the question. Was computer technical issues?
Yeah, she answers mostly. It's a part regarding mostly magnetized passes only. You know, if how and in what part of benefactors are involved or not. I understand that it's directly from past giver to receiver, but probably by what I understand, that's why I want clarification from her studies, if benefactors are involved somehow, because if the receiver receive manipulation of energy specific for the person, like a specific unique medicine, so has the benefactor involved as well.
Well, do you wanna try, Yvonne? Go ahead.
Sure. So I also, when I spoke about magnetic healing, separate from everything else, I also mentioned the story that Sandra gave, how she had helped a patient in a hospital. And I said the spirit benefactors must have contributed some of their universal fluid in the process. And that was because they had the faith and the intention that they would receive divine help in that process. So I hope that helps to explain why in a magnetic path, you might also have a spirit benefactor helping, in which case it's now a combined path, not simply a magnetic path.
Okay. One
hello?
thing that what?
On the Medium's book, item 176, there are many questions Kardec asked about healing mediumship and magnetizers. On number 2, they ask this question. So mediums are intermediaries between spirits and humans, while magnetizers who draw upon their own forces do not appear to serve as intermediaries for any foreign power. That was Kardec's comment. Then the spirits say, that is an erroneous idea. The magnetic force belongs to the individuals, but it is augmented with the help of the spirits to whom they appeal for it. For example, if you use magnetism to heal, and you evoke a good spirit who takes an interest in both you and the sick person, it augments your own force and willpower by directing your fluids and giving them the necessary qualities. I think what's important for us to remind ourselves, we are all surrounded by spirits, good or not so good. And what attracts them is our intention. If I'm coming with a good intention, doesn't matter what's my profession, Of course, magnetizers is a very specific profession that they stood for so many years to prepare and do their work. But if they're doing in accordance of the well-being of others, they're going to be surrounded by good spirits as any other profession. I think it's important for us to remind ourselves that we're studying Passe in a Spiritist center. So we don't have doubt that in a Spiritist center, as any place where there's goodwill, there's good assistance. Does it make sense?
Yes. And it's very important to understand that the passes are given anywhere by anyone believe. And it's very important to understand also that we are different and each one has a level of energy that's different. So when they mention magnetizers or pass done just by the person without the spirit, it can be this energy that some people have more than others. Like, for example, I don't have it. So when I go to the Spiritist Center, I have the superpower that naturally I wouldn't have. But there are people that are natural. They have this from them own, and it's not connected to faith or belief. They discover they have it. So in a sense, it's very much connected because we ask for help, we ask for protection, we ask to be connected, we ask to be the medium of healing. So we know we are not doing that work by ourselves. So that the other type is the ones that they do by themselves. And sometimes they say, no, I don't believe, I don't pray, I don't do anything. It's my own energy. So it's good for understanding this too. But as Adilson mentioned, in a Spiritist center, we don't need to worry about this because even if we already know we have this extra energy, we will be receiving this booster from spirituality, and we are all becoming a super pass givers. We all have like our superpower for that moment.
Angy, so this is Daniel. To add to that a bit, right? A lot of times, can you hear me well? A lot of times it sounds very magical what we are talking about here, right? So we donate this beautiful energy, we prepare ourselves to have the good intentions, then this energy is just used and the person is healed, right? But we don't have the knowledge of how this, we don't have the knowledge of how this works, right? Not the precise knowledge. We have a lot of directions and guidelines into how to prepare better, how to be a better instrument, right? But we don't know exactly, hey, when I'm giving a pass to Adilson, he's having pain in the stomach. So I don't know what I'm doing with that energy. I'm wishing that he feels better. But the good spirits around, if I'm connected to them, they will know how to use my good energies, their good energies, the good energies from nature around us, and how to apply that to heal him, right? Yeah. So we need to remember that we are just an instrument.
Humility.
We need to have a lot of humility, right? It's like we have a friend that's a musician. He goes to my home, get my guitar, which is not very good. It's just a normal guitar, and he plays. The guitar is out of tune, but he plays, it's beautiful, right? If I go there myself and I try to play my guitar, or I can get his guitar, very expensive one, in tune, and it's not going to be that beautiful. So we need to remember, we don't have the precise knowledge of how to apply these energies. But the spirits that are here at the center during the past session, during healing sessions, during mediumistic meetings, they know how to use that. So we need to just be in that humble position to donate the energies, to be good instruments, and they know how to play the song.
Exactly. Everything is a desire of doing good. So if we have this disponibility, we know we are all fallible people. That's why we are here together, to improve together and to learn a little bit more every day, especially in our moral senses. So we are doing this class that's very beautiful. We are learning so much, but we have to keep in mind that we have our faults, but we have to remember every time I make a mistake, I have to stand up and try to improve myself and continue doing good. And when we are in the Spiritist Center, we are the instrument of the good. So we have to forget about our outside problems and they really try to do the best we can on that day. And exactly as you said, Daniel, we don't know how the spirits do. Maybe in a day, if I had a fight and I'm full of anger and I still want to do a passe, maybe the spirits will block my energy because we're not going to be a good energy. And that person will receive the energy he or she needs, even if I'm not a good instrument that day. So we have to always aim to do the best. But if we are in a day that we really not behaving well, mentally, physically, and the receiver has merit to receive the energy, he will receive it even without my own fluids.
Well, why don't we not give a pass?
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
Why not say no? I don't give passes.
But that's so. John here is asking. So why not give a pass? So we shouldn't give a pass. If you go to a Spiritist center, you are a pass giver. You were scheduled. You know, in the InnerLight, we have a schedule. Like today will be the day of you 3, and then you're really feeling bad, or you had a fight, you're feeling horrible. You should inform me or the other person responsible. Today I'm not really good. I need to receive it. Could you put someone in my place? And yes. Then I will say, Mary, today's not your day, but could you do it? And yes. And then instead of donating, you will be receiving. The same thing is for physical illness. So you have a fever, or you're feeling weak, or you have a stomachache, whatever is the issue, you should receive it, not to donate, because you are in a situation that you need more fluids.
But now with COVID, we just don't go to the center when we're feeling bad, not to share with everyone.
He's mentioning here, and now with COVID, we actually don't even go to the center. Yes. Yes, because unfortunately we can transmit it to anyone. So you will send me a WhatsApp message. I have COVID, so we will put you in the prayers book, or in the day when we do the final prayer, we will mentalize you so you can receive it. As we know, energy fluids, it's like the power of thought. You know, you think you received it. It's not like one of you mentioned that it takes time to arrive. No, it's immediate.
Oh, thought is one of the
Oh, one thing, Angy.
faster than the speed of light.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thought goes faster than the speed of light.
Yes. John is saying here the thought goes faster than the speed of light. Yes. What did you say?
Okay, I think it's important for us to remind ourselves that the benefactors love us unconditionally. And they know each one of us how much you can really provide or not in that day. I'm HIV positive, and I come to the center for the past 15 years. And I usually come 4 or 5 nights a week, no stopping for the past 15 years. And I can say from the bottom of my heart, every time I come to the center, I can be dragging my body sometimes. But as soon as I get here, I always leave with so much energy that I want to walk 100 blocks, literally, every night, 10 o'clock in the night. I sometimes come with a huge migraine, stomach ache. I give the pass. I do what I need to do regarding my own conscience. The migraine is gone. The stomach ache is gone. I think it's important for us to remind ourselves, if you have a contagious disease, of course, you should be home or protect yourself in order to protect others. I mean, like a cold, a flu, or COVID. If you know, of course, sometimes you don't know that. Second thing is, if you are emotionally sick in the sense that you are so angry at that moment, or you are with a lot of resentment towards the group, it will be harder for you to be able to give a pass. But even there, the guide will give you a pass, will separate you from the rest, and you give the pass on the others. Because they love us more than you love ourselves. They love us more than you love one another. We need to remind ourselves that working heals. Working is the way. We're not pure spirit, or not perfect. Each one of us here is full of flaws. If you don't know yet, you're going to know as we evolve. The thing is, can I do it even though not being so good? Can I be here to serve? and trust the guides. There's so much love. You guys are going to have a beautiful experience now with the practice. Try everybody to take this moment to connect with the guides of me and InnerLight and InnerLight Enlightenment Spiritist Society, because now is not a moment of reasoning anymore. Now is a moment of feeling. Let's try to take this next part of the meeting, each one of us, and allow the guides to work through us. You're going to have a beautiful experience. And Angy, I'd just like to mention something. We here in YES want to thank you guys, and thank you, because if you didn't do this workshop with us now, you'll not be capable to do it and prepare yourself. So we are very grateful for what you guys are doing and allowing us to participate today. And the second thing is, we are very impressed with so many American speakers participating in the meeting. That's congratulations, Angy, because that's the idea. We Brazilians have a lot of opportunities in Portuguese, but for the American community, I want to celebrate because and empower you guys to continue doing what they're doing, because you're doing very well. This is big. For you guys beginning like that and have more than 10 Americans participate in giving the talk, we want to congratulate you all and thank you for that. Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you so much. I am happy because, you know, when I came here in Miami, and I mentioned to a few people one day I was going to open a Spiritist center in English. They told me, I'm sorry, you have to open in Spanish, not even in Portuguese. And I said, no. Even if I have another 2 people, we'll be in English. So I'm super happy to have you too. Thank you so much for the opportunity of sharing the knowledge. This was the last presentation we had to show. Now we are actually gonna go into the demonstrations, and I think you guys are gonna do a demonstration there too. So I will leave the camera on so you can look, and of course all the people online will be watching what we are doing. So it's up to Inner Enlightenment if you're gonna do your own demonstration, because you're all together there. And when we finish, we can come back together. And so let me see what time. 2:35. We are a little late. 3 minutes late. And at 3:25, we're gonna be back here for questions and answers. So it's almost 1 hour. Okay. So and when we come back together, I really would like to take a picture of all of us, and we can record this memory. Juice, I think you're on mute.
Let's make sure you put everybody together for a picture then. Thank you, Angy. The picture.
Would you or Juice like pictures?
So we're going to lower.
Juice and me, we're twins in pictures.
So from now, we're going to lower our volume. I'm not going to be able to hear you guys anymore. We're going to leave the camera on, but you're going to be doing our own job here until 3:25, okay?
Very good. So now to all of you that are online, I will set up here, and I will initiate with 1 volunteer, and I will do a demonstration and an explanation, a little bit of the do's and don'ts. And then the second phase, we will divide our group in half. Half will receive the passes, and then they will switch, and that they will become the receivers, and the receivers will become the pass givers. So just 1 moment, I will put the camera in a better position. I think I will put it here. Okay. Look. Okay, so Jeff, I think you will be my volunteer.
Awesome. I'm already here.
Yeah, so let's
Nice work,
see.
Yvonne.
We need to put
Angy, it's still recording. If you want to stop recording,
yeah,
maybe
let me go.
I can stop recording.
Yes, can you stop, and I will record again the last part. Thank you. Okay, so let me think here already. We stopped. Let's confirm. Daniel.